Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Lynn and today I am going to make a shaker card. And I have in front of me the Cat Scrappiness Confetti Party Rainbow Die. And when I filmed the product introduction video, I noticed that I quite like the negative that you get after you die cut, and I thought that might be really fun to turn into a shaker. The only thing is that the bit of white cardstock in between each sort of arch of the rainbow, it's rather thin. So if ever you have a die cut like that where you kind of want to turn it into a shaker, but you're not too keen on cutting down like super skinny strips of foam, one alternative is to die cut multiple times out of maybe a thicker cardstock, like this one is 120 pound, and then just stack them up, layer them up. And that's how you can build up your shaker well and have some thickness and dimension there. And the main reason why I'm doing it that way is because I actually want to put different colored confetti bits or sequin or shaker bits in each of those arches. Now, if I wanted to just have one big shaker well behind the rainbow, that would have been another approach and would have a very different look. Whereas what I wanted to do was in each arch actually have a different color confetti mix that matches the colors of the rainbow. So to create those individual wells, we need each of those thin white lines between the arches to actually have to be a wall, essentially, so that the shaker bits in each of those open spaces stays confined to just that arch. And so that's why I've layered up. I chose to layer up 4. So ahead of time, I picked the one that looks the best. And so I will reserve that one for my topmost layer. I'll glue the rest together. I did already glue down the acetate onto one end, and I used a dotty tape runner to get adhesive on those fine areas of cardstock. That way I can get adhesive all along that curve. For me, liquid adhesive doesn't seem to work quite as well on acetate. I find that a dry adhesive works a little bit better for me. So that's why I've used that. And I'm going to line this with more adhesive before I actually fill in each well. Because I find that once your confetti bits are in, I don't want to be trying to like move it around or do anything. All I want to do is just put my second layer of acetate onto it, because a lot of times your shaker bits can move around, get stuck to adhesive and whatnot, and spill out a little bit. So I'd rather once I'm done filling this with shaker bits, to just seal it off with a second layer of acetate. And what I'm using as my shaker fill are these came out with the Shake It Up release from Cat Scrappiness. There's so many different colors. I only have a handful of it, but I did manage to get some that are nicely representative of the rainbow colors. And they are the solid round confetti sequins. So they actually don't have a hole punched in through the center. And being that they are confetti, they're relatively flat. And in fact, I think I could have gotten away, and it may have even been a little bit better if I did 3 layers of cardstock and not 4. Only because once these started to move around, they did start to clump up a little bit. Whereas I think if you have it just the right thickness, they'll move, but they can't, squeeze behind each other and get stuck. But with some vigorous shaking, you can definitely get those confetti bits to move. I did choose, by the way, those mixes do have 3 different sizes. So I did try to make sure I was picking the 2 smaller of the 3 sizes. So here I have another new release from Cat Scrappiness. This is the Simple Sentiments stamp, and there is a coordinating die that goes along with it. What's really fantastic about this stamp set is that I think I counted it up. You get 22 individual sentiments, and they are really fantastic. These, the collection is just a very well-rounded collection of sentiments that will take you through the entire year, any and all occasion, or really no occasion at all. There's some that are kind of just because, or, hello. And it doesn't have your holidays covered, but it does have just about everything else, including birthdays. So it's going to be a fantastic stash builder, especially if you are just starting out and you don't have a lot of sentiment stamps. This is one that is going to have you well covered. I've stamped it out in VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a nice pigment ink. It stays a little bit sticky, which means you have to be a little bit careful if you're just leaving it like that. You don't want to accidentally touch it. You might smear it. But I just tossed some clear embossing powder over it, and I will heat set it in a moment. Before I heat set it, while I already have the stamp set out, I figure I may as well make another set of these simple sentiments but doing the reverse. So I'm going to white heat emboss onto black. That way I have kind of your 2 most, or at least for me, the 2 most basic looks of little sentiment banners that I would most often reach for. So black ink on white, or white on black. And the reason why I'm heat embossing is that, well, for one, white on black seems to look a little bit better when it's heat embossed, even though I will actually be stamping in white ink. I always find like it's easier for me to stamp white onto black rather than using my clear Versamark ink, because it's just easier for me to see whether or not I have a full, crisp stamp impression. Whereas when I stamp clear onto black, I can't quite tell as easily. And then secondly, I don't know if it's just me or if my mind just thinks this is the case, but perceptibly maybe it's not. But I always feel like when I do stamp with white pigment ink and then white heat emboss on top of that, it just seems more white to me. And I do want to note that I somehow managed to nudge my paper a little bit, and so I didn't get a good stamping. I had to do it over again, but all I did was I just flipped this cardstock to the back. So that's why you actually see stamping on both sides, because I did flip it over and then stamped it again. But one thing that's really nice about a stamp set like this is because there are times when I'm in the middle of making a card. Usually, I would probably say about 80% of the time, the sentiment is kind of the last thing I think about. And so often, I don't want to really go to the trouble of heat embossing. Even if I want that look, even if I would prefer a white on black, for example, just heat embossing, like getting everything out and heat embossing one sentiment just feels like a lot of trouble to me. And a lot of times it doesn't always feel worth it. So with a set like this, it's really fantastic to have 22 sentiments all heat embossed, ready to go. And you don't have to, if you're anything like me, you kind of don't have to pause what you're doing just to do some heat embossing. If you do get the coordinating die that goes along with this, it's phenomenal because step number 2 is to run this through your die cutting machine, and automatically you're gonna get perfectly trimmed sentiment banners or sentiment strips. And it's fantastic. It's such a time saver. And I was going to punch all of these out. I started to, but then I thought, why do that? I may as well just keep it in the sheet. I actually tried to put some back in into their little cut areas, but it's better to just store it like this. And I'll store that right alongside the stamp and die set so that I know I already have some pre-made next time I need to pull out sentiment. But it's really fantastic, so fast, so easy to get 22 sentiments. And actually, because I did it twice, I have 44 sentiments in both varieties. So I did not apply or attach my topmost layer of the rainbow panel. And that was because I knew I wanted to back the rainbow arches with some colored cardstock. So I wanted to save at least one of the panels that I die cut the rainbow into and use that, as you saw, to position the colored cardstock pieces. And because I lined my shaker with acetate on both the backmost and the frontmost, I have that as a unit that I can then perfectly align. And then as a final step, I can now attach my topmost. And this was the sort of the prettiest panel out of the 4 that I die cut. So that's basically how you can create a shaker card just by stacking and layering multiple die cuts. The last thing I'll do in the confetti party rainbow die set, you do get a cloud die. So I've die cut that out twice. And I was just experimenting to see, there are 2 sentiments that are rather perfect for a rainbow design. So one actually says rainbow wishes, which is fantastic. The other one says sending sunshine, which I think goes pretty well with a rainbow as well. I ended up going with rainbow wishes in the white embossed onto black. I think that anytime I have something super colorful, having just that bit of black, like that black border and the black sentiment, just makes it pop all the more. I hope that you enjoyed this card, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And I would love for you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you are already a subscriber, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.